Hi everyone, welcome to week 4 of this course. So we just finished week 3 and we are now moving into week 4 of this course. Just as usual, I'll start off with some housekeeping items and then we'll move into a little review of what happened last week and what there is to expect of this upcoming week. So couple housekeeping items. Everyone's doing a great job on their posts. We still have some students who are posting as the 7th or 8th person, and you have been contacted about that. Please remember that if you do so, that you will not receive credit for your posts. As we move forward, a couple people have reached out to me about the quizzes. They're struggling with the quizzes. So 45 minutes is a substantial amount of time. Here are just some helpful hints. Number one, I suggest that you read the chapter first, just to read it, to understand the material. The second thing is then go back and read it again. And as you read it the second time, you can take notes. You can have sticky notes. One of the biggest things I think is being organized for the quiz. So making sure you answer questions first that you know the answer to, and then go back and you can skip the questions that you're just not sure about, and then you could go back at the end. But what's helpful is if you have sticky notes and other things in the chapter to know where the information can be found, and then you can quickly reference that material back to the chapter readings. Some of the questions are going to be more difficult, and the reason for that is because I have some critical thinking questions in there, and I have to have different level of questions. So some straight out answers, some that require a little bit more analysis, and then some that require some more critical thinking. And so that is why you'll see an array of different questions on the quizzes. Okay, so last week we covered ethics, economics, and policy. I know it was a large chapter. Yes, we can put a price tag on nature. We do that through cost-benefit analysis, ecological valuation, contingent valuation, hedonistic valuation. All of these tools we use to put a price on nature. And so some of you wrote that you can't put a price on nature, which is not true. We do. It doesn't mean it's accurate, but we do put a price tag on nature. A lot of you missed the 3 factors that we use to put a price tag on nature, and you only looked at the Pricing the Priceless article, but those valuations were in your textbook. And so you want to take a look at those for maybe the midterm exam. Cap and trade, a lot of you answered that question well, and a couple of the reasons are you did a great job analyzing the Story of Stuff video that was under there. And then the environmental injustice question. So some of you answered the environmental justice question, but then you didn't give the exact reasons for it. So environmental injustices occur because of lack of income, lack of education, and when I say lack of resources, I mean lack of resources in terms of maybe they're not aware of the political system, or they don't have access to people who know the political system, so it becomes a really difficult task. When I worked for New Jersey DEP, I volunteered my time on the side, which probably was illegal to do, to help an organization, the Citizens Action Group in South Camden, because a sewage treatment plant was put into their neighborhood. It was slated for Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is a predominantly white and Asian middle to upper class neighborhood, and they went out to the town hall meetings and they fought it and fought it and fought it, and very quietly it moved itself right into Camden, into South Camden. And one of the reasons is that they knew people wouldn't complain about it. They knew people wouldn't come out to the town hall meetings because unfortunately these individuals were working 2 and 3 different jobs to make ends meet, so they didn't have time to go to meetings. They weren't sure of the political process that they could go and fight this sewage treatment plant from being placed in their neighborhood. So there were lots of reasons for it. These groups actually sued and they won, which was really, really, I mean, they didn't win what we wanted them to win, but they actually did at least win a class action lawsuit. So environmental injustices happen for many reasons. A lot of it has to do with the fact of lack of income, lack of education, lack of knowing the political process. So these are reasons why that happened. Some of you answered the intrinsic instrumental value. Intrinsic value is a little bit difficult of a concept for people to understand, and that is value unto itself. So, for example, a tree has the same value as a human, and a lot of people don't understand that, but with the biocentric ethics, etc., there is a movement for that to happen, and we can think about this in terms of the substitution problem. A lot of people are like, okay, well, just substitute bees for mechanical bees. They can do the same thing. But when people start thinking about that, they think, oh my goodness, like, wait, can we really substitute a bee, or is there something we're missing in terms of its value that can't be kind of substituted with this mechanical bee that can do the exact same things that a bee can do. So there's a lot of questions about intrinsic value. It's a very ethical question, and there's a lot of ethical information out there on terms of this. We can get really deep. In fact, in my honors class, we spent an entire semester talking about it. The other thing is that a lot of you did a good job answering the Thoreau and Emerson question, so thank you for those who picked that question. I really appreciate it, you going out on a limb and answering that question. As we move forward, this week we're going to cover Session 4, and if you look at Session 5, at the end of Session 5, you'll see the review for the midterm exam. I will make a video for the midterm exam coming up. It's an all-essay exam. You can write out the answers type out the answers before the exam and then copy and paste them in the portal, but that is something to look forward to in the future. The exam dates for the midterm exam can be found in your syllabus. So this week we're moving into consumption and waste. The waste chapter in the textbook deals with a lot of different concepts. It deals with, landfill waste, what we do with this kind of waste, and how we're running out of space for it. The Story of Stuff is a fantastic video. This video deals with how this idea of our consumption economy was created to drive the economic processes in the United States, and how really now our worth is based upon our stuff. This article, Does Consumption Buy Happiness?, talks about what social connectedness is actually something that buys us more happiness. So a lot of these articles deal with the fact that there's a certain amount of money we make, and once we make that annual income, and it's about $70,000 to $75,000 a year, if we can meet that annual income, any money over that becomes our happiness actually doesn't increase. So a lot of people think, oh, well, your happiness will increase with the more money you make. And that actually is not true. And these articles talk about that, is that there's a cap to that. So it's about $70,000 to $75,000 a year. Usually it's to meet our basic needs. So can our mortgage be paid, our car payments, can we meet our basic needs, food, water bill, electric, etc. Once that's met, we don't see exponential increases in the amount of money we make related to happiness. And it's really interesting to see that, is that we then meet this new realm, and this article, Consumption, talks about this. We meet this new realm, and then anything above that realm, we just don't see that increase. We just see that people become immune to it, and then they want more and more and more. So that article talks about that. The sharing economy is a new economy, and this is the fact that, Airbnb, Uber, we don't need to own the actual item. We can rent it from other people. There's a wonderful resource in my neighborhood called Buy Nothing, and it's on Facebook, and you can swap things with people because you just don't want to buy new things. And so it's a wonderful resource. There's places where you can rent tools. We have that in my neighborhood as well, where we have a tool shed, and you can rent that tools from that tool shed. Instead of everyone buying their own chainsaw or circular saw, you can actually just go rent it. And this is the idea that it's going to decrease the amount of stuff we have to buy, because why not just rent it from other people? Okay. And then we talk about our ideas of what consumption is, and whether the idea of consumption can get us that gratitude. And so there's a lot of questions about that. Consumption and the Environment is another good article, because it talks about the consumption in the United States. This is a summary of a bunch of different articles, and it talks about the idea that the United States and our consumption patterns have put a stress on the rest of the world. And so for students who are answering that question, you want to look at that. You want to look at when we consume a lot, how does this put stress on other parts of the world? And the summary of these articles talk about that. So there's a lot we cover in terms of consumption this week. I hope you like the Story of Stuff. It'll talk about that linear system. One thing you want to remember is a linear system is a line, so there's only an input and an output. And what happens is when that output is not put back into the input, and that output becomes our trash. When that output we're not thinking about what's the end life of our products. we create this linear system that we're only going to use resources and they're never going to get put back into the ecosystem again. When we think about closed loop systems, we're able to think about this, where what does our trash become? Because eventually, if we just keep using resources and the only output is trash, there's going to be nowhere to put that trash, and also there's going to be no resources left at the beginning. So we need to think about how we can recycle items, reuse them. Packaging, for example, why can't we create all compostable packaging? There's all just sorts of reasons why we need to start thinking about this linear system and the fact that it's just a line and that it needs to be turned into a circle. Okay, so we have a lot this week. You have your initial post due by Wednesday, response post due by Friday, quiz due by next Sunday. Start thinking ahead to next week where you can see that review for the midterm. Also, if you look here on session 6, you need to start getting your hands on the film Food Incorporated because you're going to have to watch that film. Have a fantastic week. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.